Hello guys, and we're back for our channel for another Lost Caverns of Ixalan standard check. And one of the recent results that we found from the MTG O League was this build. I call this one as the Mono White Control. But surprisingly, I don't see any new cards from this recent set, and particularly why it has again rose into the ranks of the top finishing decks in the standard format. So we're going to take a quick look as a build for this one. We have 9 creatures, 25 lands, 10 sorcery, 4 planeswalkers, and 12 enchantments, along with, of course, the 15 card sideboard for this format. So what are the typical choices here as to why we still make this one as a mono white control in this kind of deck build? Okay, so first we'll take a look at the only lone one drop here. We have a Scarab Defector Might. I'm not sure what would be its purpose here, but personally I think this would become one of the support creatures, because only having one copy, which means that you would possibly go in the mid game up to the long game, where it can protect another target creature you control, which having this one choosing from a color of your choice. And that we also have 2 copies of Lore of the Third Path. So this is now the ATB effect disenchant, with not only giving you a 2/1 body with vigilance, but also having you the option to draw a card and have your opponent also draw a card. So with the 2 copies, we have a copy of Elish Norn. So this is the Elish Norn without the last name from this is from March of the Machines. So this ability that whenever a source of opponent control deals damage to you or permanent you control, it would have your first controller lose 2 life unless they would pay 1. So another way to tax them. And also you have the option to have this one activated into a Archant Teachings with sacrificing 3 other creatures. It will become this saga wherein you can incubate 2 5 times, then transform all incubator tokens you control, and creatures you control get +1 and gain double strike on a little turn. So basically that's one way to swing out a huge chunk of damage against your opponent after you basically clear out the rest of your threat. And then you can also have this one to destroy all other permanents except for artifacts, lands, and corrections. Then you can exile this one and return it back to Elish Norn. So a very powerful card, but in a way that you would need to be able to control how it would turn out and how you would set up its gameplay. Now we also have a copy of Phyrexian Vindicator. So this is a 4 to cast 5/5 Phyrexian horror creature with flying. If damage would be dealt to Phyrexian Vindicator, prevented damage, and then those damage prevented this way will have that much damage dealt to any other target. So very good flyer for itself with the setup, and can finish off games quickly with a 5/5 power toughness. So in addition also is a 4 copies of Steel Setup. So this would mean that you would only have 5/4 in the late game for a prototype hard cast, but also you can still cast this early on as a 3 to cast 3/3 with flying, and also having the choices to trigger at the beginning of combat. You can have flying, vigilance, lifelink for any given scenario that would need to gain advantage of. So that is your 9 creatures. For your sorcery, so the sorcery would also compose of spot removals and mass removals. So we have 2 copies of Laid on Arms that can exile creatures less than or equal to the number of planes you control, and Banishing Slash, that's 3 copies. This from Kamigawa Neon Dynasty, that can destroy up to 1 target artifact, enchantment, or your top creature. Then if you control an artifact and enchantment, you can have a bonus creating a 2/2 white samurai gear token with vigilance. So in a way you can deal with a good removal for your opponent. At the same time, you can also create a threat on your own, which can deal some chunk of damage early on depending on the situation. Then we also have a copy of Depopulate. This is just a 4 mana cost Wrath of God effect that can have your player that controls multi-colored creature draws a card. And of course the Sunfall is probably the default 5 mana mass removal for this kind of deck. And with that set up for your sorcery, we also have 12 enchantments that kind of support and also can deal exile effects. So this exile effect is that of ossification. So you can exile a creature or planeswalker in opponent's controls until it leaves the battlefield. We have also 4 copies of Winning Announcement. It's more of just creating creatures and also coming up the board, and card draw effects also, whereas can be flipped into Winning Festivity to have this ultimate effect. 4 copies of Virtual Fidelity that can still create this instantly Advendale Fidelity, and the same time hard casted in the late game that can also put up some counter on its creature you control, and also having them on top. And last but not the least, for this deck, which is pretty much basic, are 4 copies of your Wandering Emperor. So your Wandering Emperor is still probably the best choice here for this mono white deck, because it can be flashed early on and can do some combat tricks, also doing some removals instantly, and also having to produce 2/2 white summary creature tokens. So in a way, this deck would probably go with having these 4 copies, but we can also check on the sideboard as to how this would probably this line of card choices would work out in any of these probably match up scenarios. So we're going to check. We have additional Banishing Slash. This may be added for any matchups that goes with dealing with artifacts, enchantments also, and additional copies with the support of destroying enchantments, and also creature with toughness 4 or greater in the form of 2 destroy evils. We also have a spot removal in Fateful Absence that can destroy a creature or planeswalker and having them investigate, and additional copies of Lord of Third Path. The same purpose to have to destroy up to 1 target artifact or enchantment. And that, with your matchup probably against mono red, we have additional copies of Correction Vindicator. So basically this goes with the playset, having the only 1 copy in the main deck with 3 copies in the sideboard. So this would go to deal with those matchups that has no basically destroy effects and would just only rely on damage spot removals. For that's very good definition for a mono red aggro matchup. So Vindicator would probably your best counter sideboard against them. And that will also added 3 copies of Elish Norman of the Machines. This would also to prevent triggers or permanents entering the battlefield your opponent's control, as well as you can also have a threat that can have your permanent entering the battlefield causing additional trigger. So with that good combination of your other permanents that has this value, you can still have a good threat and good board advantage against those kind of decks. And I think this is the last card in this sideboard list, is the 2 copies of the Eternal Learner. This goes with the long game that can also produce a 2/2 white samurai creature token with double strike, and also can have this effect that can exile up to 1 target artifact or creature and then return it to the owner's control at the beginning of the player's next end step. So more of the blink effect, but nevertheless this would also have this utility card that goes with the mid game, having only the 6 mana cost as the mana value that could be able for you to play this one for the side. So last but not the least, our mana curve. We have average of 3.63. We have a lot of 3 drops, 4 drops, and 5 drops in this deck, but particularly you would still be able to curve out with the 25 lands in the deck, with of course the Mirex that can also support to give you endless tokens in the late game. These are Correction Might artifact creature tokens, and of course you can use it of the Empire for the lone channel land for this build. So color distribution will not really matter here since we are monocolor, and here are our deck tokens and extras that we can use for this kind of build. So if we are playing in physical face-to-face kind of matchup, you would need to have these 7 cards, or maybe just representation for any of the tokens produced by this deck. So that's overall is your mono white control. This is piloted by Omer 00 for the MTGO League. Let me know in the comments if you have seen or played against this, or we are still currently playing this one in your daily grinds in MTG Online or in your weekly local game store standard tournament, so we can have a good discussion as to how the deck would work out. If this build would be enough, we would need to have new LCI cards or any other purpose that we may have for this kind of deck. So I guess that's pretty much it for this deck tech mono control for the standard format. Thank you guys for checking this one, and see you on the next video.